All right, you are tuned into MMA Canada and very excited to be talking to an individual set to headline FLA 16, which goes down on September the 16th, fittingly enough. And we have Ryan Rohovich taking on Cameron Nelson, and great getting to have Ryan on the MMA Canada platform today. How are you doing, man? You having a solid one so far?
Oh yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is kind of an interesting sort of thing, just with this being the FLA debut technically, but I saw you were supposed to fight on their inaugural card, but it seemed like some flight-related issues that were hectic in nature got in the way of all that. So just curious how things kind of play out sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate. We had a connecting flight in Montreal, landed in Montreal, big storm came in, all the flights got canceled. We ended up having to just fly back home, and the fight never happened. So I've been anxious to get out there and fight for these guys. They seem like a good promotion, and yeah, I'm just excited to go out there.
Yeah, and I feel like you've had like a pretty solid lay of the land as far as like participation in Canadian mixed martial arts, like just fighting for, promotions like Unified and BFL and stuff like that. It just seems like you've been kind of over multiple places in Canada. So cool to finally get in an East Coast showing, and especially with a promotion like Fight League Atlantic that's been doing such great things, for that area in Canada for the last little while now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty cool. I'm excited. Fight's already this Saturday. It's coming up quick.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, appreciate you making some time to chat during fight week and everything like that. Like, I guess when this bout offer came your way with Cameron Nelson, like, I guess what was your awareness level of Cam Nelson? He's had a few amateur fights with Fight League Atlantic and then has the 2-1 record under the FLA banner as a pro. Like, I guess how familiar were you with Cam Nelson before this bout offer had come your way?
So I didn't know him at all. I didn't know anything about him. And I was kind of hesitant to even accept the fight because yeah, he's 2-1, but I want to fight guys with the most experience, with the good records. And I just did a little more research, and it looks like he's a pretty good fighter, and he's got promising skill, and he's a upcoming prospect. So that's kind of what made me want to take it. He's kind of a big name out there, so I thought may as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just yeah, I mean, being that you've got like close to a dozen pro fights and whatnot, I get what you mean. Like maybe at first, like just in terms of like the sheer volume of fights, it's like you kind of wonder where he's at in that regard. But yeah, he seems to have shown a certain aptitude so far, I guess. And like you talking about researching your opponent and kind of looking into what he brings to the table a bit more. Like what skills were you seeing that kind of convinced you of what this guy's pedigree is? Like what did you see when you kind of delved into looking up Cameron Nelson?
Well, I've seen he's big, he's strong, he's very athletic by the looks of it. He throws really hard, and he's a bigger opponent than I'm used to. And I just thought, I'd be up for the challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you faced a multitude of challenges throughout your career. I mean, you've got quite the resume. I mean, even your last fight, I guess, speaking in terms of like the, rising prospect kind of archetype, like fighting someone in Jet Grand last time out, but just a deep resume. I mean, having fought guys like Mandel Nalo, and I saw you fight, Tom O'Connor years back as well with XFFC and everything like that, Achilles Estimadora. So yeah, definitely a deep resume. Seems like there's that gamesmanship rather to, get in there with whoever.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm willing to get in with the toughest of guys, and I'm looking to make a name for myself as well, and move up the ranks, of course. So I always want a tough opponent. I don't want to take easy fights. I'm not that type of guy.
Yeah, no, it's all about challenging yourself for sure, man. Like, was that kind of what initially had drawn you to the martial arts in general and mixed martial arts? Like, what kind of initially drew you into the sport? Was it that idea of like really testing yourself and, seeing where you could go with all of this?
Well, absolutely, yeah. It's a bit of all of it. I always want to test myself. I always wanted to be in martial arts and MMA. I grew up playing hockey, and just didn't have the chance until I was older. And yeah, man, I just want to challenge myself. And what really got me into it is, watching Hoist Gracie in the beginning of the UFC, and how he can take out those guys. And I've always been intrigued by that. And um, yeah, now here we are.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely love to see it and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, it just seemed like yeah, you just I mean, looking at your resume too. I mean, you've got quite the, experience for sure, but also it seems like you've not really had the best luck with certain bouts, just as far as like the cumulative amount of cancellations. Like, is there a certain appreciation for the opponents you're able to get in the cage with to kind of show off the skill set? Because it seems like you have a bit of a, bad track record where the fights kind of falling out on you and getting canceled in kind of close proximity to said fights and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was a really tough go for a while there. It was hard getting a fight. I put in multiple fight camps, and guys, would cancel out on me or back out last minute. And then finally Josh Kwiatkowski, he stepped up, and I really appreciated that because, nobody else wanted to fight me, it seemed. And then yeah, he stepped up, and um some things happened leading up into that fight that made me not perform very well, but I ended up winning that fight anyway. So I think that fight made a lot of people see like, oh well, I could fight him. Josh did that to him. I'll fight him. And then now it seemed like more and more people were willing to fight after that. So I do have some appreciation for that, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting in a certain sense because I mean ultimately you're the one who knows like what's going on behind the scenes leading into these fights, but yeah, it's kind of curious because in a certain sense you're probably like, okay, well, maybe my performance wasn't to the level that I expected it to be because of these factors going on, but at the same time maybe it works out because it facilitates I guess more opportunities to compete and kind of showcase your skills. So I guess maybe there's like, couple sides to that, like maybe a certain side where it's like it's kind of frustrating perhaps or something of that persuasion, but then it's like, oh, okay, at least it's like kind of opening up some doors for me in a certain regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Like after that fight, I never had anybody cancel out on me. And no one really knows the backstory to what happened before that fight either. I mean, I probably shouldn't even fought that day, but I still went through with it and ended up getting the W.
Yeah, and I mean, is that anything you want to divulge necessarily? Is it more of like a training, like injury related thing, or maybe something of more of like a personal kind of persuasion
No,
or whatnot?
yeah, I'll share that with you for sure. So, the weight cut went great. The training camp was great. There was no really major injuries there. But what happened after I started rehydrating, I got very sick. I got violently ill. I puked my guts out like the most I've ever have in my life, and I ended up having to go to the hospital that night. And the doctors and everyone said, "Your fight's done. You're not going to be fighting." And I just told them, I said, "You just wait and see." And it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the nurse came say to me, she said, "You can either stay here or you can go back to your room because it's very noisy. You might be able to get more rest at the hotel." So they took my IV out. I walked from the hospital at 2 a.m. Walked from the hospital to my hotel, got up in the morning, had breakfast, and I still continued the fight that night. So I was probably at 40, maybe 50%, going into that fight. So it was tough, but I managed to pull through.
Yeah, I mean, even just considering like the fact that you finished with 35 seconds left in the fight, like even if you're in ideal condition to be able to generate a finish and really the waning seconds of the fight, like I imagine there's really something to be taken from that. But then you kind of double it down with like what happened before the fight. I mean, I would think that there's a certain level of, I guess, confidence imparted from something like that, in as far as like pretty much anything can happen to you and you'll be able to get out there and do your thing and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just before that, I had so many cancellations, and I was already all the way there in Vancouver, and I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna be letting this fight cancel now." Like I put in 5 fight camps. I'm not letting this one go. You know what I mean? So just had to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of interesting because I've, checked out your, previous fights and you've contended for that, BFL championship in that aforementioned fight with Achilles Estimadora. I guess I'm wondering what the dynamics with FLA are here. Like I imagine obviously squarely focused on this fight, but is there some broader, I guess, idea of wanting to, I guess, get yourself in title fight kind of territory with FLA, or is it kind of just like a single fight deal? Like I'm down to fight wherever and just take opportunities as they come up because like we've kind of talked about before, you've had the, history of multiple canceled bouts and things of that persuasion. So maybe the mentality is almost just kind of being open to whatever promotion happens to, have some sort of vacancy on their card or rather like an opportunity for you and whatnot. So is the
Yeah.
idea to eventually, I guess, want to hold gold within FLA and have that kind of be the focus, or is it kind of what I was talking about with like maybe seeing the general lay of the land and being ready for whatever fight card may or may not have an opportunity?
Well, it's both. I'm ready for whatever opportunity gets thrown my way. I want to go for gold in any promotion. So that's the goal. Just keep rising through the ranks. Whichever promotion wants me to fight for them, I'm willing to go. As long as the opportunity makes sense, right?
And like I was kind of mentioning, like the previous time that you were supposed to fight for FLA was on their inaugural card, and you kind of strike me as a guy that has like a general lay of the land at the very least. Like, what are your thoughts on what Fight League Atlantic has been able to do since that Sean Wallace fight had fallen out in February of 2020? It seems like they've been able to, really carve out a certain niche for themselves within the Canadian scene in general, specifically in that localized East Coast kind of territory.
Yeah, they're doing great things, man. They're growing. Each show is getting bigger. It seems like they have a good following, a good popularity out there. Um, yeah, I'm excited to fight for them. They're doing good things.
Yeah, and they've got a good mix of the martial arts from what I've seen too. Like I think the day before they're also doing submission grappling competitions for people to come check out too. So love to see that.
Yeah, that's super cool too. So actually, up until a couple weeks ago, um, they offered my coach, Lucien Phillips, a match out there too in the grappling that you're talking about. And it's funny because he's main event and now I'm main event. So it's pretty cool that my coach is main event to the grappling and I'm main event to the MMA card. So that's the first.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That kind of camaraderie is always great. Like I love talking to people who have competitions either on the same card or like the same general stretch over like a weekend period as much as martial arts is individual competitive endeavor. Like it is a team sport and as far as like the people that you train with and build up into it. And there always seems like there's kind of something to that situation where you guys have your individual assignments through like a similar kind of stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. And another guy from our gym, he's fighting on a different card, an amateur card for Rumble in the Cage, same day as we are. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And we've all been able to train together and work towards the same goal, right? So, it's awesome.
Yeah, and is that out of North Wake Martial Arts? Because I've always known you to get in that Prince Albert, Saskatchewan centric kind of work there.
Yeah, it's out in North Wake Martial Arts. That's where I train. And yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah, who would be like the regular crop of, training partners that you get in that work with at North Wake, you would say?
Well, the other guy fighting there, Patrick Turner, he's been training regularly, so I'm training lots with him. Another guy, Prince Kumar, of course, my coach Lucien Phillips. There's Caleb Ermine and some other guys that spar. And then like a lot of jujitsu, so we have a lot of good guys there. You know, um, like Craig, one of our guys, he's black belt now, but he won the world championships as a brown belt, and so I train with them. We have a lot of good guys to train and grapple with. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I love just like that general idea of like, I guess, lineage in martial arts, or at the very least, like the notion of like accruing your knowledge and then passing it on to other people. Like it seems like you're able to do that with being a fitness coach and online personal training. So, how is that for you? Because I've talked to certain people who actively compete in any form of martial arts and who also concurrently teach. And it seems to like even further refine their understanding of things that they thought they know so comprehensively. Like it really underscores that understanding of the basics even more because you're imparting it to someone in the form of a lesson. So like how has all of that kind of benefited you and whatnot?
Yeah, it always helps, and I love helping people. And it also, like you said, it helps me recognize the little techniques when you're showing them, and it just more stuck in your head that way. So I find, yeah, it's very beneficial, and I love passing on the knowledge to my training partners, and if I can help them get better, and they can help me get better, that's just the best way.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. It seems like you use your platform in a number of really positive ways and just, what you're getting up to. Like it seemed like you were posting a lot about like sober, healthy lifestyles for a while and seemed to make a point to really, have those videos pretty regularly, like on every Friday, it would kind of seem like for a certain stretch. So love to see that too.
Yeah, the sober life is the way. I follow that, and I try to instill that into other people because I see a lot of damage that it's done to, you know, friends, family, a lot of people. It's a tough thing, and people have a really hard time with it. So if I can help, motivate or support them, I love to do that, man. I just want to help people, inspire people.
Yeah, no, it's cool to see that. Like, it seems like you're a great example for, people to lead a sober lifestyle. And like I said, with inspiring people through the martial arts. But it seems like there's probably some level of that, just like trying to hold yourself to a high standard just by virtue of, having daughters and sons and stuff like that. Like, they seem to really drive you a lot to kind of, embody some of those ideals that we're kind of like touching on there.
Yeah, absolutely. My family, my kids are my world, and I have to show them the right ways and lead by example.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'd seen in some interviews too that you were involved in like the car sale industry at one point. Like, are you still getting up to that a fair bit as well? Like, kind of as you're involved in martial arts?
Yeah, man, I just finished work. I'm in my car, just in the work parking lot here. Just finished selling, you know, something today, and yeah, that's my job. Other than training and family, I'm a car salesman.
No, it's all right, man. How long have you been getting up to that for then?
About 9 or 10 years I've been selling for. Yeah, I've been at Evergreen Nissan here for about 5 years, and it's a great place to be, great place to work, and they're supportive of my fights. They help sponsor me too. They're sponsoring me for this one, and they give me the time away to go fight, and it's yeah, it's a great atmosphere.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking based on the fact that you'd outlined like how long you've been there, I would think that would create some level of flexibility to be able to, really get that time off to, facilitate competing and pursuing those goals. But it's also cool that they've gone the extra step to sponsor you. So that's great to hear you have that dynamic there, man.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that way for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And yeah, it's just been cool to, get to see you have this fight locked in. And like you said, it seems like you've been able to, at least get opportunities to, compete a bit more and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely love to see that. I guess we've been talking about the East Coast a little bit though. Like, is this your first time getting to head out to that general area, like being in Pictou, Nova Scotia, and getting to hit up the Hector Arena? Like, have you really, gotten to go to the East Coast much in past, or is this going to be like kind of a first time checking out that area?
Yeah, this will be the first time. The farthest East Coast I've been is Montreal. I've been out there. I fought out in Montreal. I trained out at TriStar a couple times. But yeah, that's the farthest east I've been.
And was that when you had your fight with Hybrid Pro Series and whatnot?
Yeah. There was Hybrid Pro Series we fought. That one was out in Gatineau, I think. That's when we
Okay,
went to
yeah.
Ottawa. But yeah, I fought. I can't remember what the the company's name was that we fought for, but that was my very first pro fight out in Montreal, taking on a guy from TriStar. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I got linked up with, Faraz and the guys at the gym there. And Faraz offered me the opportunity to go out there and train, which I jumped all over it, and I went out there a few times, and yeah, man, just great opportunity, great experience, and just what the fight game has done for me, and it's cool. I don't think I'd ever have traveled anywhere if I wasn't a fighter.
Yeah, that must be a great experience because Faraz is such like a well-known name in martial arts in general, but especially so for the Canadian scene. So that must have been quite the experience getting to be under that learning tree there.
Oh man, it was so cool. Like I remember before I was ever even in MMA or training, I watched the documentary with GSP there and TriStar, and it was just so cool. I told the woman I was with at the time, I said, one day I'm going to be there. And I haven't even trained a day in my life. And then one day I ended up being there, and it came true, it just goes to show, if you set your mind to something and you want to do something, you can do it.
Yeah, no, that's incredible, man. Really putting it out there and manifesting it. And I was seeing that on your Tapology there. The promotion was Wednesday night fights. And yeah,
That's right.
a bit over a decade ago too, with that being in May 2014 since you made the pro debut. Is it kind of interesting to, be able to look back on these things? Like obviously, like predominantly with like a fighter and people in the martial arts, it's all about being present and then as an extension kind of I guess doing the best you can to build towards the future. But is there kind of something to reflecting back on some of these things, like having made the pro debut a decade ago or so this year?
Yeah, definitely. Me and my coach talk about it lots. Like, what if we would have said no to that opportunity the very first pro fight? Yeah, I might have lost that fight. But what if I said no? I probably never would have got linked up with those guys, would have probably never had a lot of the opportunities that have come my way. So I think it was just a great opportunity that we jumped on, and we got lucky that way.
Yeah, and I mean quite the journey throughout the career in general as we were talking about, but then I guess you never really know at the time because it looked like he was also early on in his journey too. But that fight you had with Tom O'Connor that I had referenced, getting that guillotine choke, and then also just with that being your first pro MMA win. So that must have been a memorable moment too, just with it being the first pro victory at least.
Yeah, absolutely. That was awesome to be able to, finish the fight that fast. And for whatever reason, I had a lot of nerves before that fight, and it was good, being one of the only guys to beat Tom. He's had such a good record after that, and um yeah, he's done really well.
Yeah, no, it's cool to follow, man. And then also that fight I referenced you had with Mandel Nalo. I think I was seeing that at least per an interview you had, I think like a few years ago at this point, you were saying that that was the toughest opponent that you'd had. And just some of the fights he's had, like getting to fight for like, Bellator before and whatnot. And like he had that recent win with Samurai MMA 11 just few weeks ago at this point, couple weeks ago. So yeah, definitely a pedigreed opponent that's still doing great things as you're doing and whatnot.
Yeah, man, he's a great fighter. He's tall, long, strong. He's has that good build for a fighter, and yeah, very skilled. And still to this day, he's definitely the best guy I fought for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's been cool to follow the journey so far, man. You've done a lot of awesome things and, still main eventing big shows and whatnot. Always have really enjoyed what FLA has been able to do. And when I saw they announced this fight, I definitely knew it would be an exciting one. I've been familiar with both yourself and Cameron Nelson for a little bit now. So, yeah, it's going to be great to check that out. But I do also want to be mindful of the rest of your schedule there, Ryan. So, in kind of saying that, I figured I'd give you the floor and see if there was any kind of final thought you wanted to add as we're, wrapping up here. I do appreciate you making some time to chat, man.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Everybody's gonna want to tune into this fight because it's gonna be a banger. I'm ready to go. I'm sure my opponent's ready to go, and we're gonna tear the roof off this place. Yeah, so thanks for having me, and I just want to say thanks to all my training partners, all everybody who supports me back at home, my sponsors, and yeah, man, it's been good. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for appearing on the MMA Canada platform today. Definitely stoked to see this FLA 16 fight and easy enough for people to remember going down on the 16th of September and should be a great fight with Cameron Nelson here. I'll be peeping everything going on there, but until then, you have a good rest of your day, man, and thanks again for the time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Have a good day too.